If you hear that song, it means it's time for some Braves talk. Welcome, everybody, on this fine Tuesday night. A happy Veterans Day to everybody out there who has served this country, dead or alive. It is a great night to talk some Braves basketball. We had a big win off the back of Bully, a great performance by just about everybody on the team. And, of course, I'm the Iceman, Matt Freites, and we have the pals, the coach, the OG. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show.
Iceman, glad to be here. Glad the Braves have gotten their first win of the season under their belts in impressive fashion
Yes, sir.
on Saturday night, and hopefully ready to get another one here. And plenty to talk about. And I know that I know the OG's pumped as well.
Yep. Good evening, Braves Nations. I'm ready for tomorrow night's game against Tennessee Martin. I think there's some people out there a little nervous because of their upset win at UNLV, but I think we'll get into it here in a little bit. But I think nothing to worry about. No problems.
All right, so there's no reason for a show. We'll
The
pack it
kiss of
up. Let's
death
go
around here.
home. Yeah, the kiss of death. That's right. So, guys, I think last time we were here, we were looking for the team to kind of look better. It wasn't really about Central Michigan. It was more about the Braves. And I think that we kind of got definitively that answer, at least for one game. So, Brad, why don't you walk us through the blowout win over the Chippewas, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the story is, Jaquan Johnson's 33 points. And I think on the show last week, I mentioned that it seems like maybe right now, or at least after the first game, it seemed the team might have been lacking that player who could sort of put the team on their back. Now, granted, like this wasn't necessarily like in a close game situation, but Bully was definitely that guy in this game. And I think that we could all agree that he has what it takes to be that guy moving forward. I think my dad came home after maybe it was a St. Louis game, possibly, and said, or I didn't get to watch the Green Bay game live. I had to watch the replay. But at one point in time, he said, "There's no doubt this is Bully's team." And I think that, we really saw that on Saturday night. And I think we underestimate as fans how hard it is to step up into that role and to fill the shoes of a Duke Dean type player. And even when Duke came in, Duke came in as a transfer. He had played some Division I basketball before he came in, and to replace Daryl Brown. And so, yeah, I know that Bully had last year, but he had last year with Duke. So I think it's fair, to give him some grace, in that transition from being sort of the guy that's out there learning, behind a legend to being that guy, or at least, what everyone expects him to be that guy. So it was really nice to see that out of Bully. And I think once he got to 33, you could see that he was sniffing 40, man. Like he was going for it, which was great. So you'd love to see that. And I think we have to mention, of course, AJ Smith's effort, 18 points, 6 boards, was much more of a factor in this game than he was in the opener, which was huge. Still with and I guess I don't want to move on too far past AJ. Dad, you might have some things to say about AJ and about Bully respectively before we move on to some of the others.
Yeah. Well, I also want to first mention before I get into AJ and Bully, um, Birch was a scratch from this game, and when I said that this is Bully's team, don't want to leave Birch out. Birch is going to be that guy that's going to feed off of Bully. Birch is very well capable of throwing up 30, 33 points anytime as well. And he's a very important factor in how our team will go this year. But and now we'll get on to Bully and AJ. AJ, 18 points. He was a much, much better player this game than he was against St. Bonaventure. And kudos to Hubris, 11 points. That's pretty consistent with we're going to need that from him. And
I think a lot of nights we're going to need more. I mean, because
yeah,
counting on Bully's not going to go for 33 every night. I mean, if he
no,
does,
no,
we're in awesome shape, right?
no, yeah,
But that's not going to be the case most likely.
right, right, yeah. So we're going to need that out of him. We need a couple other guys to step up as well. Montana played very fairly well. I don't know that he was necessarily looking for his shot. He was trying to be that guy to feed others, which is a good sign. Bully was taking it to the hole. And that's what we need. If when he shows that people need to feed him until they stop him, That's what, and that's the way it is with several other players as well. Montana, or whoever's going to be on that night. So they stop them. We need to feed them. And let's get on Meta real quick. Very much a non-factor until he did not put up his arms and let a guy point blank make a shot from like 2 feet away. And Coach Wardle pulled him out, rightfully so. I'm sitting there screaming just as well, probably just as loud as probably Wardle was. And, said, come on, man. And then give him a chewed out, made him sit the bench for a little bit. He came back in and finished with 7 boards. I think that's what I said he'd get. Only had 2 points, but he came back in, with the chip. And that's how we need him to play.
Yeah, and you're right. And I mean, honestly, probably the fact that he knew he was letting the OG down is probably what
No,
motivated
probably.
him
Hey, why
more
not?
more than anything.
But Brad, the thing is, though, is he's become kind of like a lovable character on the show because of your dad. But at the same time, like, what is it with him, and why does he need to have to be pulled out of the game and motivated in that kind of a way? Like, he's a starter now, so shouldn't he be able to do that by himself?
I think, and Kevin Munchie, I think, touched on this, at least with me up in conversations during games. But excuse me, a little thing in my throat. But
So professional.
I agree with him that I believe there were some injuries with our bigs over the summer, and I don't know if something may have still been nagging, but he's not gotten to where he was back last February. All of last February, man, he was phenomenal, in his game, leading into the Valley tournament and then into the NIT. He had few downer moments, but he played very, very well, and that's what we expect, and we expect him to expand his game off that because we're really going to need that from him.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a situation where it's just kind of mental right now, if it's in his head a little bit. Yeah, granted, like he was expected to be a contributor last year, so this isn't a new burden for him to bear. I don't think by any means, but it definitely seems like there's certainly some sort of a block there that's preventing him from reaching his full potential at this point in time. And I know that it's early in the season. There's plenty of time to figure things out. The good news is that he responded to coach. And I mean, it was, we were watching during the game and, coach was, kind of confronted him pretty aggressively when he came off the floor, rightfully so. And then for the next 3 or 4 minutes, like, just randomly, he'd walk down the bench and, like, get in Meta's face again,
Yeah.
like, and, I mean, he just, like, he wasn't, he wasn't ready to let it go, and I mean, you know what, though? He knows those guys better than any of us do and knows how to push their buttons and how to get the most out of them, and Meta came back in the game and showed some signs of life, which is what you wanna see in that situation. A lesser player, someone with less mental fortitude, would have tucked their tail, hung their head, and felt sorry for themselves. And Meta didn't do that, so a lot of respect to him for doing so. And I hope this doesn't happen. But one thing that makes me feel better is we didn't see a ton of Caillou, but we saw enough of Caillou to make me feel like we have we have a backup plan to some degree. I know he's not Meta, and he still has a ways to go as far as getting acclimated to the system, but
I think he's got a higher upside than what Meta
he's gonna
did
help
when
us.
he
There's
came
no
in.
doubt about that, and we're gonna need him to at some point, at certain points, because Meta's gonna get in foul trouble, and we're gonna need
Which
him to be able to
is
come
a
in.
little uncharacteristic, but because of the minutes he's probably gonna be playing, you're probably right. But in the past, he hasn't been a guy in big time foul trouble.
No, and I mean, it's, and sometimes you wonder about that, right? I think you wonder if it's a sign of, like, that he's just playing really good, well-disciplined defense, or is he not playing physical enough? That
Yeah, I brought that up
you know
the
what I
other
mean?
day. Yeah,
And, and I'm not saying that you don't want him out there just hacking people, but,
right.
uh, I'm surprised, though, that we haven't seen him respond a little more physically and more aggressively in these
Yeah.
situations. But, I mean, I don't wanna we're not gonna beat Meta to death,
No,
I think he'll be fine.
I'd like to see his game in and game out be very similar to how he attacked Chase Walker out of ISU last year when they came into town here. He handled him. I mean, Walker had
Well, I think Meta's one of
Nothing.
those though. Meta's one of those too. I think he's got to get a bucket or two early. If he gets a couple buckets early, it seems like he really gets going, um, and builds the confidence. So hopefully we're able to do that for him moving forward. But there's a couple other guys worth mentioning. Corey Thomas.
Right.
We're only 2 games in, but he seems like he's kind of that like under the radar guy that's just consistent that you're going to be able to count on to come in and you know score somewhere in the range of 10, which he started. But
And he
scores.
can do other things that's not in the
Yeah,
stats.
yeah, it's like and bear with me when I say this, but I feel like his performance, it's kind of a little bit like Malavai light, right? I mean, a lot light, but like it's similar. He goes out there and does the little things that don't always show up on the stat sheet. He's gonna come out there, he's gonna score 10 points, he's gonna, be up there close, 6 or 7
Yeah.
boards, and, he's gonna have a couple deflections and stuff like that, and, he can knock down a 3 ball for you here and there if he's left open, so I like what we've seen from Corey so far because we're gonna need that consistency, especially with some of the ups and downs we've seen out of some of the other guys early on here. It's nice to have, that one guy that seems like he's kind of, he's gonna show up every day, and the floor is pretty high,
Yep.
for what we've seen so far from Corey. And, I think it's worth mentioning, we already talked about Kai, but, we did see Dietrich and Zobes a little bit and some,
Yeah, we
5
need
or 6 minutes each,
yeah, we need to
respectively.
that's what we need to see them guys get in there, get their feet wet some because I think maybe part of their shortcomings right now that maybe, to what we see is nothing more than the speed of the game isn't what they're used to. And once that slows down for them, which it will, the more minutes they get, the more floor time, it's gonna be better for them because they're all way too talented, the freshmen.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and they're
game speed's the
probably
toughest thing to you
Right.
can't really get that in practice. It's kind of like in football when a guy's injured and then you bring him in. The game feels so fast whenever you bring them in. But when you look at the rotation, fellas, they had played 10 guys this time. Remember last time we had a pretty robust conversation about when you start putting some of these guys in, when you start giving some minutes to some of these guys. And it was nice to see some of the players that didn't get as much time in the Bonnie game get some time here and actually contribute to some extent. But get, like you said, Rick, get that game minutes, get those game minutes and get that game speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean the kind of the one thing that sticks out a little bit is we played 10 guys but only had 12 points off the bench. We're going to need more than that out of the bench. And, especially, Timo is better than he was in the Bonaventure game, but we're going to need more out of him as we progress through the season. Obviously, he had the kind of the boneheaded, got super pumped about the dunk and then, I mean that was like over the top, but like I don't blame him for being excited. Um, whatever it happens. I think we'd all probably feel differently about it if it was a one possession game and that happened. But at the time, it's like, okay, that's kind of dumb. But yeah, I mean, and yeah, Wes is right. It was a great dunk, man. I mean, it was good stuff. And yeah, definitely a coachable moment. You could tell Coach wasn't too pleased
They're
with
young
what happened.
though. Like that's going to happen from time to time. And yes, it's a coachable moment, but I mean, you do something exciting. I mean, if your dad hit a bucket, like you said, he couldn't hit a bucket. He hits a bucket, he's going to get a technical foul for sure. Like that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, I mean, good to see a little life out of Timo, especially after what we didn't see against St. Bonaventure. Hopefully, he's able to continue building on that. We're going to need more contributions from the bench. That probably looks different if we have, Demarion Birch and Corey Thomas is coming off the bench. Obviously, that bench production goes up some, but then of course, I doubt we're going to play 11 guys, so, but we'll see what happens, I guess, as some of these guys progress. And one thing too about Birch, and I believe it was mentioned on Josh and Tony's spaces. Someone came on and asked who they thought the kind of the X factor of this team would be. And I think I was thinking it, and one of those guys said it, and I think it's Birch, man. It's he's really the guy I think that can take this team to the next level if he's able to perform the way that we all know he can perform consistently. So I hope whatever the injury is minor and he's able to come back and come back healthy and strong and able to, obviously be a difference maker for us. So let's hope things go well there. And then one thing that was mentioned last week, we talked about the crowd a little bit, not knowing what to expect. And honestly, I thought it was decent.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
over
For all the other things going on.
was it 56?
I don't know what the number was. I didn't even look. Just, I mean, I turned around the Kevin, aka P Town, during the game. I said, the crowd's not too bad. It's more people than I honestly thought were going to show up. So it was good, with college football going on and a lot of local high school playoff football games happening. Good turnout, good crowd, and glad the Braves were able to put on a
58.
show.
You know why that
58
is,
on
Brad?
Yep.
Because
That's a
that
good
video
number,
of
man,
yours
for
went all
Yeah,
over, all
couldn't have
viral.
been 67.
oh boy. No, that's a good number for, I think, the home opener against Central Michigan after a loss. Like it or not, there's a lot of fair weather Braves fans out there. So I'll take that all day. That was good.
Right.
Hey
Glad to see
guys,
that, and hopefully we get a similar turnout tomorrow.
question. I want to go back to Wes made a comment. Obviously, Wes, lovely to see you. And he's always so positive, even when giving us a worry. But I want to go back to his comment that he made right at the beginning when we were giving Bully his flowers. And I think it's worth discussing here because I think it is criticism, not criticism, but I guess worry that may not come to fruition. But Rick, I kind of want you to take this question about Bully playing against bigger teams. I know you look at the Valley a lot more closely than either Brad or myself. And I wanted to know how you felt about Wes's assessment given what we saw from Bully and what we've seen so far through 2 games.
Well, if he hits that shot like he was, I don't have a problem taking it. Sometimes it doesn't look great coming off his hand, but he was in a zone, and I hope he stays in that zone for quite a while till the end of March, at least. But yeah, I like that thought process.
And I think that, obviously Brian Wardle has had great success with undersized guards. So, and
Yeah.
obviously all those guards played against bigger guards, and we saw Duke have his struggles against bigger guards, for
Well,
sure. But I have to think though that like by this point, Wardle's got something in the toolbox, to combat those situations where we're really facing a physical mismatch at the point guard position. Now, again, if we're still able to find a way to get open, if Bully's able to find a way and get open and make those shots against those bigger guards, then yeah, we're really in business at that point in time. But we'll see. I know what you got.
yeah, I just gonna say, I mean, even on the nights that, let's say, he comes out and misses the first 2, I mean, we got Birch, we got Montana, you got Hubris. You know, he'll start dishing off to them, and hopefully, one of those 3, at least one of those 3, will be on, and we'll be hitting him, and then we'll feed him. And then just like with Duke had started out many a game 0 for 3, 0 for 4, and then come the second half, shooters, you don't tell them to stop shooting, you tell them to keep shooting, and you'll start hitting it. We have had some in the past who have really felt that, I think Atlason was one. If he didn't hit his first 2 or 3 shots, sometimes he didn't even get to 3, he'd start passing up shots. And some of us were saying, take that shot, take that shot. You're just too good to not do it. But
You know who's not
that's the
afraid
other
to take
thing.
that shot? Alex Hubris.
Yeah.
That dude will friggin'
Yeah.
cut it loose, man. I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
There's no hesitation there. I mean, and how many times I know, and you guys in the chat can say if you felt this way. There's so many times in the past that I felt like guys would pass up open looks. I mean,
Mhm.
not wide open looks, just like, that brief moment of like catch and shoot where it's like if you cut it loose, you got it. And it's like I feel like we'd see a lot of guys, like our shooters, pass up shots in those situations. Alex ain't gonna do that, man.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm pumped
Alex has
about
a
that.
quick shot. I mean, as opposed to Atlason. Atlason shot, it seemed like it took him a little bit for it to come out of his hand, but Alex, he gets rid of it quick. I think Bully gets rid of it sort of quick. I think Montana's even quicker than Bully, and it looks a lot smoother, when it comes out. Doesn't necessarily mean it goes in the net or in the basket, but
Don't care what it looks like, just
yeah,
go
as
in,
long as they
man.
go in,
Just go in.
But I mean, we got the guys who can hit it. It's just a matter who's going to be on. Let's feed the guy that's hot.
That's all you got?
What's
All right.
next?
All right. I like
I
it.
was I figured you'd let you segue into the next into
We
UT
could. We
Martin.
could totally
Nice, man.
segue.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how much we have now. I will say this. We did have a comment here. Somebody's been watching CMU message boards apparently, but it sounds like the arena and the crowd was something that the players weren't used to, which, man.
Yeah, you probably don't get that a lot in the MAC, honestly. I mean, there's a few programs that got it going a little bit, but Yeah, I mean, Carver is a really underrated arena when the Braves are going good, man.
Where the fuck are
So
we?
We are a very smart basketball fan base, the Peoria area, Peoria Bradley fans.
And humble.
I think Coach Wardle will tell you that. The fans are very, very smart. And we all, for the most part, really know the game. A lot of us think we're better coaches than what's the guy up at Michigan State,
Tom Izzo?
Tom Izzo?
Tom Izzo, or better than him even, some of it. I mean, but not me.
You and P-Town.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Me and
Not
Kevin,
me.
Hell
I'm waiting
yeah.
for him in the chat. I'm surprised if
head
he's here. I'm
coach,
surprised
head
he's been so
coach,
quiet.
and coach and assistant right there.
There you go. Speaking of coaching
National
assistants, though, Rick, so UT Martin, I assume that ever since the game this past weekend, you have been out scouting and kind of looking at Tennessee Martin. So why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown on what they present to the Braves in the next game?
Well, let's go back because everybody's really concerned about because they beat UNLV, a good Mountain West.
I don't know.
Or,
Maybe.
yeah,
Who cares?
either
Sounds
Mountain
right.
West or West Coast. But they're preseason middle of the pack.
The Pac Western Mountain Conference.
But they won by 5. I did do a little bit of looking. One UNLV was missing 4 guys, 4 scholarship players. However, of those scholarship players, 2 were freshmen, one's a sophomore, and there was a junior transferred from Cal Irvine. We all remember Cal Irvine was a pretty good team last year, and this guy was a guard. Played all. I think they had 37 games. And he started every game, averaged around 28, 29 minutes a game. 12 points, I think it was. But he was one of the guys injured, so you got to maybe sort of assume he would have been a starter. Not that he'd have been a difference maker, but let's look at some of the in-game statistics that not everybody looks at. It was turnovers. UNLV had 22, and in reading some comments, post-game comments from the coach that was in a write-up, his guys were doing stuff that he has never seen them do in practice. And Coach Ward will tell you, some of our guys have even done that. So you kind of relate to that. And when it comes to a game, so 22 turnovers to 14 for Tennessee Martin. And then let's look at the fouls. There was a total of 58 fouls called between the two teams.
That's nuts.
27 fouls on Martin and 31 on UNLV. With foul shots, there was 85 shots taken. 48 shots by Martin, 37 by UNLV. Now, of the 48, Martin only hit 27, which is a pretty poor percentage, but 27 points is 27 points, and they only scored 86. 3-pointers, they were 11 of 30. So they took 30 shots, but there was only, I believe it was 3 guys that took those shots, or most of those shots. You had one guy in particular. I don't know if I'm going to chop his name.
Oh boy.
I hope you do.
Bukamirovich or something like that.
Just run it into the ground.
He was 5 for 7. Another guy was 2 for 4, and another guy was 2 for 6. So there's 9 of the 11 3-point shots made right there. So 33 and 27, 60 points of the 86.
But also
in 3-pointers and free throws.
Let's not freak out, right?
Oh, I'm not freaking out.
I know you're not. I know you're just talking about things you've seen and read. There's some people that win freaks them out a little bit. But you know what? If they're a good team, that's great. I hope they are a good team.
Yep.
That's they'll be a good win if that's the case. But as of right now, they sit at 287. In the Kid Palm, which is I think Bradley. As of when I made this earlier, I don't know if it's changed. I believe Bradley sat at 104 this afternoon.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Tennessee Martin. Their tallest guy is 6'9", 240, and he's not, or 230, and he's not even a starter. The guy that starts more at the center position is actually listed as forward is 6'9", 220.
They're small, but they're slow.
They're very small, but they're probably fundamental. They're all most of them are all foreign players, so they're probably very fundamentally sound. So our biggest thing is, let's protect the rim, protect the inside game. Our bigs should have a offensively should have just a big game.
So this could be a bounce back game for Meta if he can get it figured out a little
It
bit,
could
right?
be
hope so.
Meta and you
Yeah.
and a continuation and maybe even extension on production out of Corey Thomas, AJ. It could be big inside game. Because UNLV wasn't that big either. They had one guy at 7-footer, and he didn't even play. He was one of the 4 that was sitting out. Other than that, I think maybe 6'9", 6'10". So they were we're long. We're going to be much more physical. The only game I got to see Martin, and trying to get some replays, they played an NAIA team, and I mean it's hard to get anything out of them, but you can just see how a team plays. I mean, they're not overly quick. They're not really super athletic. I mean, we by far are more athletic, bigger size. I
You're
feel we
just
could
setting
run
us.
on
You're
them.
just setting us up for some reason this game goes south.
No, because I don't want to be that guy that's. I mean,
No,
I'm not
I
a
hear
coach.
ya.
I'm
No,
a
I know what you
fan,
mean, though.
and
You're right.
I see what I see, and I'm like, unless them guys sit out there at 3-point line and we have guys just flying at them and fouling them, and maybe they make a few here and there. I mean, we just got to play sound defense on the perimeter and hold fast inside. I
Yeah.
mean, they're much smaller than us, so
And not to be redundant on the theme in the last couple of shows, but again, this is another game where it's about Bradley, right?
right,
About
exactly.
Bradley being the best version of Bradley and cleaning up their shit. And
I like to think every game is going to be more
well,
about
sure. I
Bradley.
mean, but I mean, I think once you get into league play, then now it's a little bit more. The teams are so familiar with each other, like the game plan is a lot more of a factor. Taking away what the other teams do well is a bigger factor. There's a little more at play where like this early in the year, especially against these perceived lesser opponents, it's really about just figuring yourself out, getting the rotations ironed out and, correcting the mistakes from the prior games, implementing the things you've been doing in practice. Like that's where all this growth
Improving,
comes from.
getting comfortable with each other.
Yeah, Joey's right. Yeah, Bradley versus everyone, 100%. And
Yep.
I think that as long as Bradley keeps focusing on Bradley and blocking out everything else,
Yep.
the rest will sort of take care of itself. And
San
good
Francisco is
point by
going to be a
Wes.
big game for us, actually.
Yeah, and that's going to be.
They're going to have to work.
I mean, one like that's some. We're traveling across a couple time zones, right? I mean, that's a tough place to play. Isn't their gym or their campus? Isn't it also referred to as the Hilltop? I think I've seen that somewhere. I mean, maybe
Don't
someone in the
recall.
chat knows. I thought I saw that last year when I was watching one of their games. Anyways,
It could be Indiana State.
what's that?
They're going to Duke Friday night.
Indiana State's going to Duke. Yeah. Well, yeah, hopefully they don't fall asleep after their emotional win last night in Edwardsville. But
let's crown Drake after their big win.
That's a good segue into talking about the Valley. I mean, even though the Valley sits at 18-7 in non-conference play, we got something to talk about.
Hey, we got. I mean, how many teams? 7, 8, 8 teams between 103 and 139. 139 being Drake, and now, who was it? Was it Indiana State? Indiana State now 188. They had a win the other night against SIUE, and it jumped them up to 188. So you got Evansville and Valpo down in the deep 200s.
No, I mean, I think Dad's probably definitely watched more of these games than I have. I kind of try to.
I got more time.
When people bring up outcomes and stuff, I pay attention to it. There, obviously, things you see on the Twitter feed and stuff like that. But so far, I mean, I don't know that there's too many like marquee wins at this point in the league. But I would say for the most part, it seems like
there's a good one going on right now.
For the most part, we're winning the games we should win to some degree. The Murray State game, what's the score of that game?
Well, I'm trying to find.
All right, well, time you
trying to get to it, bud.
But yeah. Anyway, so I mean that it's good though. I do think that the top, like you said, the top, 6 teams or so in the league. I mean, I think there's going to be some battles there. I think that it's going to be tight. The top half of the conference is going to be really tight throughout the season.
Was a 7-point game. It's now
they're down 10 to SMU.
11.
So how much time's left?
7:33.
All right, so
no hill for a climber, right?
It ain't over. So
we've done it.
and that'd be a great win to get, right? It's on the road, I'm assuming as well.
Yes,
So
yes.
it'd be nice to get that win. Bradley going to San Francisco would be a nice win for them to get. I don't think Indiana State's going to be able to pull off the upset against Duke, but you never
Hey, if
know.
they keep it
Crazier things
within
have
30,
happened.
it's a win.
Was it Evansville? Yeah, Evansville beat Kentucky a few years ago. Um, and then yeah, went on to be mediocre in the league. But anyhow, those things happen. Those are good opportunities for some of the teams in the Valley. Yeah, the Bradleys of the world aren't going to get those opportunities
UIC
right now.
rolling, but who'd they play? St. Francis.
Hey, Brad, it's funny you
Yeah.
mention that
So yeah,
because we were talking about basketball, and my wife went to Winthrop, which is in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and she always asks me how the team is doing. I realize this is Braves talk, but just hold on here. And you talked about getting opportunities. Well, I decided to look at Winthrop's schedule, kind of see where they were, and their schedule is pretty much what you'd expect from a school at that level, except a couple weeks from now, they play number 14 Arkansas. And I was like, well, you can pencil in a little L right next to that game because I don't think Coach Cal is going to stand for a loss to the Eagles.
yeah, probably not. But don't they? Do they have a recent, like, by recent I mean like the last 10 years, like Cinderella win at March Madness or something
They
like that?
do
I feel
because
like
their former coach was the coach at Wichita State before he got ceremoniously. What was the guy's name who was at Wichita State when they made it to the Final Four? Do you remember who I'm talking about? That was their.
Greg.
Yeah, yeah. That
What? God,
I
man,
know, but you know who I'm
it's
talking about.
killing me.
But
I
that
can't
was
think of
their
his last
former
name.
coach, and that was when they were
Yes,
good, and they've had some good years here or
Greg
there.
Marshall.
Yeah, Greg Marshall. Anyway, I brought that up because you said like Bradley doesn't get opportunities like that, and it's too bad because they should get opportunities like that. Even if they go to Arkansas and lose, being able to play tough against a tough road opponent would be a good opportunity, and it would actually be great if some of these schools would be brave enough to come to Carver. Just saying.
Yeah, I know it's just the modern landscape. There's no benefit to those teams to play with the way the metrics work now. There's no benefit to them to play the game against a Bradley because still, even at this point in time, for a top 25 program, Bradley's they're still not, their metrics aren't good enough for it to be considered a good loss, and they're also not good enough for it to be considered a good win. It's kind of it's either you gain nothing from it or you lose from it. There aren't a lot of positives and it's stupid. I hate that it's that way. I'm definitely not like defending that's the case because I grew up watching Michigan come to town and Villanova come to town and even not, well, gosh, it's probably been almost 20 years ago now, damn near, but Michigan State come to town. I've seen it in my lifetime, against good teams, not just, when Michigan came the last time, in the Geno Ford era, the team wasn't great. Um, but Michigan State was right on the heels, I think, of the Sweet 16, I believe, maybe like a year or two after. In 96, 97, was the Michigan and Villanova. So, been there for those games, seen those games, watched Bradley beat Villanova and Michigan both in Carver. Um, and it's unfortunate that we probably won't see that again
It's too
at any
bad,
point in time.
and it triggers my old manness when it comes to collegiate sports. You know, I talk about this with football a lot, but if you think about it, right? If you think about it from a logical perspective, I mean, these teams, these big name programs, they're going to be playing other big name programs. So if they are a good team, they're going to make the tournament. They're going to get a lot of opportunities to play teams that are on their level or above their level in NCAA tournament play. But there is some value to going to a Bradley or going to one of the mid majors that you know is a solid program, like a playing a Wardle coach program is kind of like playing one of those really senior mid-major teams in the first round. And those are those games where teams come in, they get upset by a very veteran team with a veteran coach who's been there. And there is some value to playing those games. If you play a tough game and win a tough game, that gives you an opportunity to coach and say, this is what the tournament is going to be like. And I realize that there's so much money involved, but when I think of it logically, which none of this is logical, I think of that, and it's too bad because fans like Bradley fans and other mid majors that have such a fervent passion for their teams should be rewarded by being able to see good programs come in. Just my opinion.
Hey, could you imagine like if pro sports operated in the same way where like they made their own schedules and let's say that you were, one of these like okay, let's say you were the Brewers, right? The Brewers aren't like they don't have a gigantic payroll. I don't imagine.
Best record in
And
Major League Baseball
so
this past year.
right, yeah. But let's say that you're the Brewers, right? And they've been perennially pretty solid for the last, 6, 7 years. But if the Cubs could say like, "Nah, we're not gonna play the Brewers," you know, and just never go play that game because they feel like all they can do is they can only be hurt by it, they can't benefit from it, or like if gosh, whoever, like I'm trying to think of like the Rockies, right? If it's like, okay, well, the Dodgers, the Dodgers are never gonna go play you because there's just nothing to gain by them playing you or
It
whatever. I
is
mean, it'd be
unfortunate.
crazy if that were the case.
But I mean, Aaron's comment
So we
here
got
about Matt Painter's philosophy, playing really good teams from lower levels that play different styles, right? And I think there is something to be said about looking at your team, looking at what you want in a program, and getting experience within your schedule. And Bradley doesn't really have any leverage. I totally understand that. I just wish that the larger schools, the larger programs, which, yes, have a lot more money at stake, would think about it in that way. And I wish programs were less about money and more, or mixed in some type of old school philosophy when it comes to college basketball. It's never going to happen. I'm waxing nostalgic over something that is totally long gone, but I'm old, damn it.
but I mean, I think that I and some others I'm sure are more in the know than we are, but I can't imagine that Wardle passes on too many opportunities to go play these people at their arena.
No,
I can't imagine that those opportunities even present themselves very often, and like unfortunately, I mean, yeah, it'd be great if there were more, painters of the world that would welcome these, good mid-major programs into their arena. I
Well,
think that
with the transfer portal, why? I mean, they'd ought to come in and play against the Bradley, and
well, especially if you're going
look
to poach some of
see
these
what the
players.
talent exactly. But then, I mean, that's why I mean you can go on YouTube or any other ESPN Plus and watch video of teams.
You
we can just
can.
call you
Yeah, well, that's very good. Rick Stallion's
But
ready
it's
to report for duty.
Rick Stallions.
yeah.
I love that.
Anyway, fellas, so Wednesday night, 7:30. A couple things, Rick. First of all, meta stat line, since you seem pretty high on the bigs in this game.
You're there? There you go. Okay. First of all, Bradley's
You're on the air.
50.5 point favorites. What I looked at earlier.
For
So I
all of you
mean,
betting on
we
this game.
got that. We have that if anybody's a betting man. But meta stat line. I'm not going to be as big of points, although it should be a game he breaks out. But I'm going to keep the rebounds about 7, 2 blocks. I'll go about 6 points, which might be a little high, but I'll go right there for meta.
So repeat that for me. Sorry, I was reading the chat.
7 boards, 2 blocks, 6 points.
Okay.
All right.
And how would you feel about that performance
Me?
if that's what it was?
I'd be kudos to me. I got it
No,
right.
you're not your performance. Gosh, how would you feel about
I would say it's a very positive step forward.
Joey, that's brutal.
that's
Over
a
under 2
reach.
benching moments for meta. Whoo.
Oh boy, hopefully under.
Yeah, let's tell me.
Under
obviously.
2. Yeah, I'll say under 1.
Hey, now I mean,
I think a message was delivered loud and clear the other night.
so again, I know nothing. I know nothing about Demarion Burch's status. I don't know if coach has commented on it publicly at all.
I have not heard anything.
But I mean, if he's not like 100%, I see no benefit in playing him in this game. And I think that if that's the
Well,
case,
if
I
he's
would love.
healthy, play him.
Sure,
If
but
not,
if it's not like if he's not if he's healthy, if he's perfectly
he
fine,
doesn't
yeah.
necessarily have to start. I mean, starting today in today's game, no matter football, basketball. Hang on a minute, buddy.
Oh, boy,
Is
we got
is
man.
the starters doesn't matter as much. I mean, it is sort of a big deal, but it's how you finish. I mean, there's still 40 minutes in a game, and it's who's on top at the end. So he doesn't have to start. And if it looks like we really kind of need him, to maybe a spark or whatever, get him in there for a few minutes. But let's make sure we don't get him hurt. That's going to cost us more than a couple of games. I'd rather see him Saturday night than tomorrow night if his leg's a little tender.
Sure. What I was going to say though is I hope we see a similar rotation than what we saw Saturday. We see the young guys a little bit. We see Caillou and yeah,
And Matthew,
for sure, absolutely.
even if there's for
Yes,
a
it's
few
great.
cocoa
Oh
minutes here
boy.
and there.
More Bradley basketball.
You say go Braves?
Go Braves.
At least he wore the right color for the old school script uniforms.
Yeah, the light blue, the baby blue. Got it
That's
going.
right. So 7:30 game on a Wednesday. How do you guys think the crowd's going to be, especially coming off such a big win?
It is a late game.
Well, it's a doubleheader.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
worth
it is.
mentioning. It's a doubleheader. The girls, the women, I should say, are playing before. They're playing DePaul. I don't know how early we're gonna be able to get there, but I'm hoping to catch some of the women's game and then obviously the men's game for sure. I'm hopeful that that boosts the crowd a hair a little bit. I don't expect it to be what it was on Saturday, being a Wednesday night and a little bit of a later start. But
people come out that this team we're playing beat UNLV. Use that as a motivator.
hey, like I said last week, there's only one team playing that should matter, and that's the Bradley Braves.
That's right.
That is a
That's
great
Bradley
way
Braves.
to end this show, fellas. So, big game tomorrow night. Great show tonight, breaking everything down. Hopefully, the next time you see us, it will be on the heels of a big win. But Rick has given us about 8 kisses of death in this game. So, let's hope that he is not a bad luck charm. But we do got Carver here, who is the man, the myth, the legend, the champion of youth wrestling, as we found out earlier today, the grand champion of wrestling. But Wes, I like what you said. The future of the show, the future of the fan base. The only way this fan base continues in the way that it is now is the younger generation getting involved, and hopefully Braves Talk can have something to do with that. Folks, it's always fun every time we come on here. Hopefully
That's
we'll
why I
be
can't bring
here.
him to games, because it's just the whole time. I'm just wrestling.
And then you got to wrestle with Kevin and your father, who are, doing their own thing. So there's a lot going on at Braves games. But if you want to see any of this madness, you show up at Carver every time the Braves are there. I bet you Brad, Carver, Rick, they'll all be there. The whole crowd will be there. Folks, hope this finds everybody well and safe, and we'll talk to you next time. This is Braves Talk.